Hi guys, and welcome to the next tutorial. Today I'll give you a short overview about the main page, and for this reason I loaded up the MFA-X, which contains all parameters of modulation that have been programmed in the whole instrument, and loaded up the lead default sound because it's so simple and it's the basic starting sound for creating your own patches from scratch. Okay, we go to the main page. As you can see, you have 5 sections: oscillators, this is where the sound is coming from, the filter, the envelopes, the modulation, and the glide, also known as portamento. Here in the oscillator section you can see 2 labels, 1 and 2. This is the 2 oscillators. Oscillator 1 and 2 are principally identical, with just one difference. The second offers a triangle wave here, and the first has a sine wave. What you need to know is that any combination of waveforms that you select here will play another sample on every key that you hit. So every combination is completely analog. You never leave the analog way if you do anything here. The same is true for oscillator 2. But let's have a short listen. Okay, let's begin with the sine wave. Add a sawtooth. And here the pulse waveform of course has a width to it, and which you can hear. Okay. However, so if you want to sum up 2 oscillators, you get the usual detune. Detuning is done with this knob here. And below all that you have a mixer. And this is quite obvious. The first one is oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and noise. The noise is a white noise coming from the hardware, and you can just dial the volume. The thing to know is that you have 2 frequency knobs here, where you can just detune the oscillators in semitones. Okay, so after the sound has been generated from the oscillators, the sound goes through the filter, probably the most important thing for a synthesizer. And you can see the 2 big knobs. It's cutoff frequency and resonance, the most prominent knobs on every synth, I think so. And what they do should be quite obvious. Okay, so, and resonance working as well. The next important knob is this one here. You can choose between the 4 filter types. If you look in the info pane below, you see which type you have dialed in. This one is a Moog filter. You have, next one is the Oberheim. The third one is Roland TV303. Sorry for the distortion, but that is normal with resonance. Okay, and yeah, the last one is the ARP 2600 filter, like that. A very aggressive one. Okay, so here you have keyboard tracking. We come to that later. Filter 4 and 2 offer bandpass. What is more important than bandpass maybe that you have 2 dials below here. It's envelope 1 and envelope 3 amount. So we switch to envelopes and come back here later. Envelope 1 is the filter envelope. Envelope 2 is the amplifier envelope, and envelope 3 is a free running envelope that you can set to any destination that is given here, whatever you choose. Let's begin with the filter envelope. If you program it like that, it will not do anything because you first have to dial in the amount for envelope 1. Okay, so the next thing to know is I think about amplifying envelope. This is quite obvious what it does, and it always affects both oscillators and the noise. Okay, now you can hear it better. For the third envelope, I make another in-depth tutorial about the settings and what you can achieve with that. The last thing here I forgot to mention is you can switch about the amplifying mode of the filter from Studio Electronics circuit to Moog mini circuit, which works best if you dial in the Moog filter. You can hear there's a little distortion going on. It's just a nuance, a little coloration of the filter sound. So the next thing is the modulation section. Again, you first have to put into consideration which target you need to affect with that. Let's say we want to affect the cutoff. Here you have the rate, which is the speed in which LFO is working, and here you have the depth. You can choose which waveform the LFO is doing, for example square. This is very obvious what it does. And even random or noise. Sounds quite funny, admittedly. Okay, and the same is true for the second LFO. You have two of them, as you can see here. There's a specialty with the second LFO because the rate here can also be set to be synced with your host tempo. If you go to settings, sync LFO2 to MIDI clock, then you can see you have values. So 16th, for example, 16th note, so it will be in sync with your song tempo. One thing you need to know is you can switch off key. That means that the LFO will not re-trigger every time you hit a key. And you have phase. You can invert the starting point of the LFO. Yeah. And as a last thing for you to know, the glide mode, known as portamento, quite clear. If you put it to auto, it will do the following. Once you hit a key, it will just do a glide if you play legato. If you put it to on, it will be always on, no matter what you do. interval knob determining whether the interval spread will be taken into consideration when it comes to modifying the glide time. And there's a retrigger knob, which should be explained in another tutorial, because this again is quite complicated. So thanks for watching, and have a good creative time.